Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams, sportswear. Click on the link, and while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. Those were the days, Bobby. We're on the TV.
I think we say that every week.
I think we do too. But listen, memories. Great teams, great defense, whole 9 yards. So, welcome to the Big Blue Blues Brothers show with Macman and Big Bobby G. Of course, we got a lot of things to get to today. We have a trivia question. We talk a little bit about a couple of coaches. I see now where I did have Jim Fassel in here. We'll be talking about him and Allie Sherman, my father's favorite coach. General outlook, the Giants' defense, offense, Dallas's offense, defense. Really couldn't get the Cooper Rush. A couple fumbles and mismanagement by the Giants quarterback. And, of course, we'll be talking about the Saints next week. So, Bobby, let's start it. What are your impressions of last week's game?
Well, the Giants look the same as they have looked really for the last 2 months. But I'm going to do a quick little thing that the glass is half full. I'm going to tell you what it was. In the first quarter, we actually scored a touchdown. Since the first time since early October. We actually had a lead at the end of the first quarter for the first time since the beginning of October. So that's my half glass full comment of the game. Other than that, the glass pretty much empties pretty fast. Even though the score was, it seemed competitive, 27-20 at the end of the game. Really, the defense couldn't stop the run again. Defensive backs, I thought, played one of their better games. They really held. They really did a nice job holding. I thought the Cowboys wide receivers to a minimum, minimal games. Yeah, they hit a couple big ones on us. I understand that, but overall, I thought the defensive backs had a pretty good game. Best game I've had that they've probably had in the last few weeks. The linebackers. Okereke is a very good middle linebacker. He's going to be a probably middle linebacker for us for a long time. in their future. Unfortunately for us, coming out of that game, Dexy got hurt. Yeah. He had dislocated his elbow, so he is done for the year. So what does that really mean for the Giants defense going forward and for this game too, is when he's not on the field, we can't stop a nosebleed. So if I'm the New Orleans Saints, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But if I'm the New Orleans Saints, I'm really licking my chops this week when I'm looking at the game film. And I'm thinking about what my game plan is going to be for this Sunday. And I'm going to be giving Kamara the ball. And when I'm done doing that, I'm going to give it to him again. Because they're probably going to, I would say, and I'm just a prediction, 150, 160, 170 yards rushing. And I think Carr will have a nice day throwing the ball against us too. But we'll get to that at the end of this segment. At the end of the show.
We sure will.
What Dallas did. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Nat.
No, you go ahead, Bobby. I was just going
to say. All I was just going to say was Cooper Rush, another backup quarterback who we couldn't rush. We didn't get next to him. We couldn't knock him down. I don't know if we had any sacks at all. Just a few short weeks ago, this defense is leading the NFL in sacks. I don't think we've had, 5 or 6 sacks, maybe 7 sacks in the last few weeks. Yeah. So we really fell off the cliff when it comes to that defensively. And I don't know what you think about the defense, and we can talk about the offense in a second.
I think the defense is still very young. I think it's got a long way to go, until next year. I think there's maybe we need a defensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't know. I know our special teams don't look that good either. It's a whole. I think it's almost a whole clearinghouse. I don't know if you keep the ball or not. I don't know if you keep Shine or not. I think Mara's got a lot of decisions to make in the off season, and it doesn't seem like anything is working right now at this time.
Yeah. So Dable came here as an offensive, kind of innovative guy who was creative. He was that way with really every stop he's ever been, going back to his college days at Alabama. Right. He's always been kind of a creative guy. He really had a nice tutelage under a lot of really good head coaches especially over here in New England with Bill Belichick. And when he moved on to Buffalo, became the offensive coordinator. He became kind of a quarterback whisperer up there, and it could really it was very innovative. Made the Buffalo offense very, and they still are very good. They kind of, whoever picked up the ball from him has really just kind of let it go. The stuff that he's put in place, they've been able to kind of just say, okay, it's not broken. We're not going to fix this.
Right.
So, and I don't know if it's the quarterback, and we can talk about Daniel Jones in a minute. If he was the problem, if Dable was the problem, if the draft's the problem, there's so many problems. You're saying blow it up. It's funny because I'm not sure that. Well, I know Mara doesn't want to do that. John Mara does. And we talked about this, I think, our last show. John Mara does not want to blow up this team and start from scratch again. Now, that being said, maybe one goes, but if one goes, it'll be the coach. I don't think the GM goes. Okay. If they both go, then they both go. But if one goes, the coach will have to go, and they'll let Shane pick the next quarterback, whether it's in the draft. There's some free agent quarterbacks out there. The Giants may not like what they see in the draft, depending on where they're going to pick. Right now, they're picking number 3. That probably doesn't get him Sanders because the Raiders are picking number 2 as of today. And if the draft was held today, I think Sanders would go to I almost said Oakland, to Las Vegas, and it would leave us with the rest of the quarterbacks. And maybe you find just as good a quarterback in the second round as you might find with the 3rd overall pick. I don't know. So there's a lot to be discussed as and I'm getting ahead of myself again, but we're talking. I'm trying to figure out what good I can say about this team. And you know what's scary and bad? All we can say good about this team is when does the draft start?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there will be other quarterbacks, Ewers, Milrow. There's a few good quarterbacks out there that might be available when they go to pick. Speaking of quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers likes to blame other people for his mistakes, doesn't show accountability, puts people out on an island, has been working with Wilson for the last 2 years. It doesn't even look like it anymore. There's something wrong over there in Jets locker room.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of the Jets game. I was kind of surfing around watching a few games at a time on Sunday. He looks, and I think I said right before we came on the air, we were talking, and he looks like a 40-something-year-old quarterback.
Yeah.
We said this a few weeks ago. I think the Jets are going to have to dip their toe back in that quarterback pool. They've done it. This will be the third time. If you want to count Aaron Rodgers, this will be the fourth time in so many, probably in the last 5 years or 6 years that they've had to do that. Right. It's hard to find a quarterback in this league. It's hard. It's hard to find someone who can function. It's hard. It's a hard position to play. It's a demanding position. And that's why, that's why so many first-round draft picks don't pan out. We were talking about draft a minute ago. There's 5 or 6 quarterbacks, and they're saying this isn't a good quarterback draft. Well, 1 or 2 are going to be good. You just finding the right one. And it's like I said, it's hard because you don't know until the bullets start flying out there who you have behind center. We can talk about Daniel Jones a little bit here, and how he it's funny. Our last show, we talked about the Giants going over to Europe and playing in Germany. And I said to you then, if the Giants lose this game, Daniel Jones will not be playing quarterback anymore for the New York Giants, and changes in management may happen. Now, I never in my wildest dreams did I think we'd be sitting here a few weeks later, and Daniel Jones is not even on the team anymore. As a matter of fact, they had him in practice as the defensive back safety for the scout team, giving the offense a look. You want to fall? That's a fall from grace that I don't think I've ever heard before. I don't know. What's your thoughts on? Do you think the Giants wanted him to leave? Because that's a pretty tough, I would think, pill to swallow. If I'm a starting quarterback for a franchise, 1 week earlier, and the next week I'm just going to come off a bye, and the next week or 2 weeks later, I'm on the scout team playing safety.
I think they were worried about him getting injured because they would have owed him a lot more money if he got injured. That's why I think they tried to get him out of there as soon as possible. I think it was like 12.9 was the insurance policy on him. But yeah, I think they wanted him to leave, and that's what they had him do.
Yeah, so they saved $22 million in cap space next year. They're going to have another $20+ million in dead money, but they're still going to get some cap relief by releasing him. You're 100% correct when it comes to the injury. He had the injury clause in his contract. I did read somewhere that the Giants did approach him and asked him to renegotiate that clause and take it out. He refused to do it.
Yep.
I'm not here to say it was right or wrong. That's his decision. It's a business decision from both people too, not just from the organization, but also from the player. So for whatever reason, he thought this would probably be a better idea for him, or easier for him maybe to leave the team. And I also read that he was asked not to be around the facility, and he showed up anyways.
Yeah. And now he's with the Minnesota Vikings.
And happy. He's happy. Yeah. He likes the coach over there. They're a winning team. They're going to the playoffs. They're going to win looks like they're going to win their division. So he's behind. It's funny, talk about the Jets a minute ago and the Giants. So now the Minnesota Vikings have 2 former first-round draft picks, both from the New York teams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It is.
Funny. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, I don't know if Darnold was happy that he came or not. I'm not sure. I know that the Commanders are happy as hell with their young quarterback. He's doing a hell of a job over there. They put up a lot of points, Bobby. Another
win for Washington. Our division, it's funny, everybody thought Dallas was going to be this great team. And, as they always are on paper before every season starts and during preseason, Maybe they thought the Eagles were going to have a down year because they ended last year kind of stumbling to the finish line. The Giants actually beat them the last game of the season. Washington got rid of their 2 top defensive players last year. They become better. They draft a quarterback who seems to be he's a very excitable quarterback to watch. I enjoy watching him play. I said it more than once. I was hoping if the Giants were going to get a quarterback this year, it was going to be him. But, there's a quarterback who took over for him at LSU. Not a lot of people are talking about him. He has all the tools to be a great quarterback. Now, people are saying he might have to go back to LSU for another year of seasoning because he's only coming off 1 year playing starting quarterback at LSU. But he might come out of the NFL draft. Now, with someone like that might be available in the second round. Things to think about down the road if you're looking to, bring someone in, get a bridge quarterback in here like a Sam Darnold whose contract's up at the end of this year. So you said, is Darnold happy? Who knows? Because his contract's up. Do they move Jones in? Do they extend him a rate for more than what they're paying him right now? I'm assuming he's on his contract's also at the end of the year. Do they bring Jones back in? And they have the kid JJ. Can't think of his last name.
McCarthy.
Thank you. And they drafted him. Does Jones pay and McCarthy learn behind him? I don't know if you can bring back 3 first round draft pick quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And pay them all. McCarthy's under contract, obviously, but you're going to have to pay one of these guys $5 or $6 million. You're not going to pay both Darnold or Jones $5 or $6 million. You're going to bring one back. So maybe Darnold's the odd man out, and maybe he ends up. Believe it or not, I read this. Maybe he ends up back with the Jets.
Well, speaking of first round draft picks, Caleb Williams, Eberflus gets fired. Doesn't call a timeout. Some people are blaming Caleb because you see the clock. I don't blame a rookie for making that mistake. I blame the coach. When they had a shot to tie the game and the time just ran out. And, of course, Eberflus gets fired.
That was probably one of the most bizarre endings of a football game I've seen in a long time. I'm not a head NFL coach. Never was an NFL football player. I did play football. I do know how to call timeout. I understand when there's 30 seconds on the clock and I have a timeout in my back pocket, and my team looks a little disorganized. As a coach, I better call timeout.
Right.
He didn't do that, and because of that, he lost. That was bizarro. I had to keep watching. I think I watched that over and over and over just to make sure I watched it right.
Right.
And just with 30 seconds left on the clock, that's a lifetime from where they were. I don't know how that happens. That is a coach killing play if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, and well deserved. He leaves. Only problem now is what do they do? You got Caleb Williams, just like Trubisky and Fields. Head coach gets fired. GM gets hired, gets fired. And they never get together on the right quarterback. Does this happen again?
Yeah, it's funny, and he's the first one taken. How many times do you see, and you hear this from people all over the league, it's really not sometimes how good you are as a quarterback, it's who drafts you and where you end up playing as a quarterback. Ask David Carr. David Carr had about as good as a college career as you're ever going to see. Sam Bradford, same thing. And they just went to teams that just weren't ready, and they got in their rookie seasons. They got beat. I'm not saying Williams is getting beat up by a pass rush, but they went to dysfunctional football teams. And when you go to a dysfunctional football team, and it doesn't matter how talented you are, sometimes you just get lost in the shuffle there. So it's funny we're saying about quarterbacks, and it's 2 or 3 are going to be good, or 1 or 2 are going to be good. A lot of it really depends on who drafts you, who your coach is, how stable the organization is. Who wouldn't want to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers coming out of college if you're a quarterback? They've been there forever. They always have a winning season. They might not make the playoffs every year, but they're always in the hunt. The coach has been there forever. The management team's been there forever. Who would want to go there? Unfortunately, you got the Chicago Bears and some of these other teams that you don't know.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Bryce Young looks pretty good. I mean, I've been all over. I've been all over him since he's been drafted. I'll admit when I'm wrong, but yeah, he played pretty well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And I remember we were talking about when he was benched. I remember saying to you, now do the Giants pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what are you thinking about? What would it take for us to pry him off your roster and bring him here?"
Right.
And and the Giants, I mean, they might have called him, and the Panthers might have said, we're not looking to move him, but conversations like that have to be had. And do the Giants sign one of the? Speaking of Steelers, do the Giants sign one of the Steelers quarterbacks? They're both coming. They're both going to be free agents. Steelers aren't going to sign both of them. Do we sign the one they don't sign? I don't know.
Me either, Bob. So let's talk about a couple of our coaches here. Jim Fossil had 3 winning seasons in 7 years. So not the best record, that's for sure. Is he a top coach?
I think Jim Fossils is a top coach only because he brought the Giants to a Super Bowl. He made the Giants relevant again, too. If you go back, we talked about one of our trivia questions a few weeks ago was when the Giants went 10-5-1. And who was the quarterback? And that was the trivia question that day. It was Danny Cannell. Right. So this is Jim Fossil's first year as a Giants coach. Now he's really coming off really great offensive coordinator showing. And I believe it was in Phoenix. He was with the Cardinals. He had Boomer Esiason in there, and they had a nice, prolific offense. He comes to the Giants, and here's a weird tidbit that a lot of people don't know or remember about Fossil. So he comes over, he becomes the offensive coordinator of the Giants under Dan Reeves. George Young is still the general manager of the team. Reeves is shown the door in 97 or 96, 97, I believe it was, after the 96 season. George actually wrestles around rehiring Bill Parcells to be the head coach again of the New York Giants. He then decides not to do that and promotes Jim Fossil. Jim Fossil goes 10-5-1 and is coach of the year.
Yeah.
His first year. And kind of reminds you a little bit of Dable, doesn't it? First year, nice record, playoff team, coach of the year. Very, very similar circumstance. Both those guys have in common. Fossil, again, great. He had a really strong college coaching career. He had Elway in Stanford. He was his offensive coordinator. He was a 7th round draft pick as a quarterback by the Chicago Bears. He played for the Bears. He played for the Houston Oilers, and he played for the San Diego Chargers also. So he had a little career in the NFL, played for WFL. So he has kind of a little knowledge of how the NFL works as a player, as a coach. So I think he was successful in a few different ways. One, being coach of the year, his first year. Secondly, when he said, "I push all my chips forward," the Giants are 7-4. I'm pushing all my chips forward to the middle of the table. We're going to the playoffs. And the Giants did end up going to the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he failed, 2 things he did wrong, I think. And it's really not wrong. So the Giants come off a whipping of the Minnesota Vikings, 41-0 in the NFC Championship game. And then they go on to play the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens were just a better team that year. Mm-hmm. But a couple things he did that year that I thought that, or even followed up to that, he kind of resurrects Kerry Collins' career. Right. At the time, Kerry's down in New Orleans. He's been he's great Penn State player. He's been on a couple different teams. He's pretty much almost out of football because he was a locker room cancer, they were saying, and maybe even a racist, they were saying. He comes to the Giants, and Jim Fossil's helps resurrect his career. Yeah, and really rides Kerry to the Super Bowl. Yeah, which and Fossil at the time had a nice staff. He had some people who would move on to be head coaches in the NFL. Both his offensive and his defensive coordinator would become head coaches after. So he had a nice little coaching tree too, and they both had a lot of success. Sean Payton had a lot of success.
Yeah.
As a coach, and he was under Fossil.
Yeah.
The defensive coordinator would go on to be the head coach of the Panthers, who would also go to a Super Bowl.
Right.
So he had a nice coaching tree underneath him. More so than a lot of head coaches do. So he did a lot of good things. What he did wrong, though, I think, and we've talked about it on the show here, and the Giants were up, I want to say it was 37 to like 13 in the third quarter against the 49ers. And the 49ers come back. I mean, they're getting 2-point conversions. They're scoring touchdowns from the third quarter to the end of the fourth quarter. They're just running up and down the field on the Giants. Comes down to a kick to win the game. And remember the guy Trey Jenkins? He was our snapper at the time.
Yeah.
That name ring a bell to you? And someone reports as eligible. I don't remember who it was. Reports as eligible. And the refs kind of blowed at the end there for the Giants because the guy goes out for a pass. The eligible lineman, he's a lineman number. He goes out for a pass. He's pass interference. He gets tackled before the ball gets there. And this is when Trey Jenkins misses he snaps the ball. Jenkins bobbles it bounces to the snapper. It bounces to the holder. The holder gets up, throws the ball down the field to the guy who reported as eligible. He gets a pass interference against him, and they call him an ineligible receiver downfield. Game over.
Yeah.
And that's how the Giants would have actually won that game, I believe, if they had a redo on that play. That one play, though, and that second half of that game, in my opinion, destroyed Jim Fossil's coaching career for the Giants because the very next year he coached as scared as you could be. And before the season was over, the Giants were on a really horrendous losing streak. He actually, before he's going to be fired, he knows he's going to get fired, and he announces at the end of this season, I'm going to retire.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
So I know that answered your question. That was a long answer to a short question.
It was.
I think he did a lot of good in there too, and some bad.
Gotcha. So our dad's favorite coach, Ali Sherman. He was also coach of the year, but ended up getting rid of a lot of good players that the Giants had, and the team just went down the tooth, Bob.
Yeah, so Ali Sherman comes over. First off, he has kind of a cool little history too of his football career. He is he in high school. His mom thinks he's too small to play football, so she doesn't sign the letter, the letter that says you can play. So he doesn't play football in high school. He goes to Brooklyn College, and he's a walk-on. And they put him at quarterback. He's 5'10", 160 pounds. They put him at quarterback and cornerback. He ends up actually playing both positions for them. And his coach at the time, his college coach, and I can't remember his name, his college coach says at that time, he was the smartest college player football mind, I'm saying that right, that he's ever known, ever met. He was so smart. Ali Sherman is then drafted and this is kind of a weird thing, because it's called the Steagles. Now, why is it called the Steagles? Is because it's 1942 and World War II is on. So a lot of NFL teams kind of grouped together. So the Steelers and the Eagles became the Steagles.
Right.
And so he's drafted by the Steagles. to play quarterback. Again, at 160 pounds still, at 5 feet 11, and ends up playing quarterback and actually wins some football games for them. That's kind of how he starts his career in the NFL.
Wow.
He also coaches. He goes on to coach in the Canadian Football League before, and he comes back to the Giants in 1959 to be their offensive coordinator. And I'm kind of zipping through some time stuff here because this is really through the 50s. He's kind of bouncing around. He's in the CFL. He's in college, and he was actually with the Giants. He left the Giants. So he comes back to the Giants in 1959 to be the offensive coordinator because Vince Lombardi has moved on to the Green Bay Packers. And here's a caveat to that, though. Vince Lombardi is begging him to come to Green Bay to be his offensive coordinator.
Wow.
And the only reason why Allie doesn't go there is because he has his sights set on being the Giants head coach.
Yeah.
Which you were right. He becomes the Giants head coach, 61, 62. He's coach of the year. NFL coach of the year.
Interesting.
And then the wheels come off. As Dad would tell you, the wheels come off, and go ahead. You can maybe pick up all the people he got rid of.
Rosie Greer, Sam Huff. I mean, I think even Roosevelt Brown, some of the greatest Giant players ever. And Dad hated him. He just hated that man. We'd be having a few in the back, and all of a sudden he'd say, "That's the worst damn coach the Giants ever had." So let's push on to next week. I know it's a little early. Derek Carr, we talked about Kamara before the show. Going to run a lot on him. Derek Carr, I think, will use a play action pass now and then. And he's got some good receivers too over there. So I think the Giants are in a lot of trouble.
I don't see them winning this game. I don't know what the spread is. I haven't seen the spread today. I don't think it matters. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 7, whatever. I know it's a Giants home game, so they say that's worth 3 points. So whatever that means. The Giants have 5 games left. I looked at the schedule today before I came on with you, and I can't find a win on the schedule. And we'll talk about it as the next couple of weeks. But this game right here, I think that they're just going to run the ball on the Giants. There's no Dexter Lawrence in the middle there to stop the run. You can throw in the Giants deep. They're young. They had a good game last week against Cooper Rush. Derek Carr's a little step up from Cooper Rush, so he'll probably make some plays. I mean, Rush made some plays downfield. I expect Carr to make some plays downfield. I expect them to run the ball handily against the Giants. I don't see the Giants scoring many points on this defense. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be anyways. What do you think? Do they stick with DeVito? Do they go back to DeVito? Do they march Drew Lock out there? I mean, I don't know what the Giants do here.
I would imagine Drew Lock will be back out again because DeVito has been hurt and he's very, very ineffective lately anyway. Some news out of San Francisco. I just found I saw it before I came on. Trent Williams, the left tackle for the 49ers, his son passed away today.
Oh, no. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, just before I came on. I mean, I was wondering why he wasn't playing, and, that's kind of sad, man. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's you lose a child, and my heart goes out to any family who has to go through that type of pain, for sure.
Yeah, with him out, McCaffrey out now. Not sure what they're going to do with Debo. I don't know. Brock Purdy hurting. They look like they're in a lot of trouble in San Francisco right now too.
Yeah, they didn't look good yesterday. They didn't look good last night. It was a fun game to kind of watch with all the snow falling down, but they didn't look good last night. They're heading the wrong direction. Right now, I'm looking at the NFC. There's 3 teams, I guess. If you want to throw Minnesota in there, we talk about them every week. The Lions we talk about every week. Talk about the Eagles every week. You want to throw the Lions in there. You want to throw the upstart Washington Redskins, I guess, and maybe making a run. I don't know. If the ball bounces right, that might happen.
Maybe Green Bay.
Maybe Green Bay. Maybe Green Bay. Yeah, maybe Green Bay. So there's some fun games to watch coming up down the stretch here, and I'm looking forward to that, and certainly to the playoffs getting going. And just unfortunate for us that another year we won't be participating. And every year I'm excited when the OTAs start, and I read everything I can about them, and I'm excited that when they start and they open up training camp. And I'm normally at the Cape at the time, and I can't get enough news on it, and you start getting yourself excited. And by Halloween every year, it looks like every year we become a ghost. So
Very true. Well, folks, we're going to get out of here early. I got some stuff I got to take care of. I appreciate y'all watching, viewing, liking, sharing, hopefully eventually. And, of course, to my great co-host, Bobby G. We'll see you next week on the Big Blue Blues Brothers Show. Thanks a lot.